Hollywood, Bollywood, and Nollywood.
Well, the U.S. film industry, to start with, is not doing very well. And that has a lot to do, it seems to me, with these other film industries that you just alluded to. Because I think the tendency worldwide is basically to build up one's own film industry. I think it was Francois Mitterrand, the former and late president of France, that said that any country that's not in charge of the images that are being portrayed on the silver screen on its territory is a slave country.
Right.
Which is why there are massive subsidies of France to this day to the French film industry. And now, with the profusion of new technologies, cheap video cameras, you've had the development of this film industry in Nigeria, for example, Nollywood, which has really taken West Africa by storm.
Taking Toronto by storm.
Is that right?
You can go down the street. You can go down the street and get all the little two twins. There's stars all over the Western Hemisphere. The two little twins. Everybody knows those guys. But go ahead.
And then, of course, the Indian film industry is very popular in Africa as well. And as a matter of fact, you have some of the titans of the Indian film industry who are actually funding Hollywood productions now. Because the box office receipts in Hollywood have been heading south. There was an article in the New York Times today about Spike Lee. You know, he hasn't had a major production in a few years now. He's basically doing what you or I would do. He's digging into his own pocket to make films and then going to festivals trying to get deals.
Right. Back to square one.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, the U.S. film industry is not doing. The Iranian film industry has really been producing some interesting films. Separation, which is the latest one. I haven't seen this, supposed to be very good. I did see this other Iranian film, Circumstance. Anybody see Circumstance? You saw Circumstance? About these lesbians in Iran? Yeah, it was very interesting. What did you think?
You want to take the mic? I think you want to take the mic?
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, the Iranians have been producing some very interesting cinema. So you know, China has been investing heavily in the film industry, and of course, it has been limiting the number of Hollywood films. I think it's only 20 films from the U.S. per year.
I don't want to cut you, but
sure.
In terms of in Toronto, we have seen the demise of video shops where you can rent movies.
Yeah.
Is Netflix?
Yeah.
Like Netflix? Is that a factor? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I have to say I'm biased now, so I might not be thinking clearly. You know, I started getting Netflix when it first came out, and it's changed my life. In the sense that, you know, I just want, you know, it's just so much. It's just so much to watch. I mean, they have all these documentaries, and I mean, you can criticize me about this because I know it's a major corporation, but I mean, it's just so many documentaries. I mean, I feel like I'm filling in gaps in my knowledge base by getting all these Netflix. I have about 4 or 5 in my bag right now, as a matter of fact.
You said you had Charles Burnett's film?
Got Charles Burnett's film.
Is that a Netflix?
No, it's not Netflix. I got that from another source. But I have to say, it's for a consumer. I know I'm being subjective, but for a consumer, I mean, I just found it liberating. Now let me now try to think outside of my own subjectivity. Let's see now. I would say for filmmakers, it's probably been a boon as well in terms of distribution. That's always the problem for films. I mean, I go to all these film festivals. You see all these wonderful films, but they never get distributed. They don't find an audience. It's really terrible. It's terrible. So it's a distribution arm. Actually, I should drop this topic because it's hard for me to think beyond my own selfish needs.
I have another question for you. Now there is a documentary about a young man out of California by the name of Doc Ellis. I haven't. Doc Ellis was a baseball player who recently passed away from Los Angeles, Gardena High School, who pitched a no-hitter under the influence of LSD. He played for the Pittsburgh Pirates with Roberto Clemente, who was my favorite, who was played right field for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Roberto Clemente was a Puerto Rican baseball player who died in a plane crash. I think it was New Year's Eve. He was 1972, attempting to deliver goods to Nicaragua. He was a humanitarian. Now, Doc Ellis was on his team, and there was a documentary about Doc Ellis, which I haven't seen. I saw clips of it. But you read the book in terms of Doc Ellis was kind of. I remember he came to Toronto, and I went to meet him, and he looked at me. He didn't go to the same high school, but I had seen him before. So I thought being a homeboy, he would at least, but I guess he was probably so spaced out at that time. I said, yeah, I used to see you at Fremont. He said, well, I didn't go to Fremont. I went to Gardena. And he stormed off. That's after I had waited for about 3 hours for the guy, you know. He used to wear his hair in curlers. I mean, he was you saw him pitch. He was damn good player.
So, has Netflix come to Canada?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, does anybody...
I gotta check it out. I haven't checked it out.
Yeah, see this film on Norman Bethune with Donald Sutherland playing. Okay. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
I think that's a Canadian Film Board. You can get that from the National Canadian Film Board. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can just get that right in Toronto. It's not bad. It's interesting. It's an interesting film. I can't think of any documentaries on Bethune though. Although probably the Film Board is this film. Let's see. What I just saw the Film Board film. I can't think of it. You know, I've watched so many films. They all sort of become a blur. Just on Bethune or the other ones I was trying to think of. I can't even. I just remember seeing the credits saying National Film Board of Canada. Let me think. I can't remember.
National Film Board has. They have everything you can think of. And starting, a lot of black filmmakers from all over the world have come here and did films.
You can watch them online. NFB has their films online.
I didn't. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you can watch it.
I didn't
I
know
don't know
that.
if it's the whole catalog, but a lot of it's on there.
That's true.
I mean, anybody just in Canada or anywhere in the world you
I
can
don't
watch
know.
it.
I mean, it works.
If it's www, I guess it's in the world. So it's, yeah.
Oh, good.
Maybe you have to go through Germany, like was it Simon and Schuster? Who just got sold to Germany? McClellan is still here. Simon is that's America. That's
a Yankee.
They're not going anywhere, right? This is Region Radio. We are broadcasting live from a different book list here in Toronto, Canada. We are at 746 Bathurst Street. The phone number here is 416-538-0889. And the website is www.adifferentbooklist.com. And we have an audience here, and a very intelligent audience. When Gerald Horne is on the phone, always gets a lot of questions. I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I should call people's name and just ask them. I wasn't raised that way. My mother would kill me if she knew I did something like that. But Gerald Horne, we're going to be here until 1 o'clock, and this is going to be will be broadcast over CK Region Radio, formerly CKLN, next week. Yeah, we will have.
And then we'll have a reception here at 6.
There's a reception here at 6, and Dr. Horne will be signing his 2 books, Negro Comrades of the Crown and Fighting in Paradise, at 6. You can come and definitely get a chance to speak with Dr. Horne again. And I think some TV. I think we're going to do some TV things tomorrow, but we can talk about that later.
Oh, sure.
Now, a different book list. Oh, this Harry Belafonte. I wanted to ask you about Mr. Belafonte.
It's a new documentary about
right.
Belafonte. You know, he's about to turn 85, I believe.
Wow.
African Jamaican ancestry, performer, singer, political activist, and the documentary is supposed to be pretty good. I may see it actually on Monday or Tuesday.
Well,
and yes, go ahead.
I had a call from a friend of mine from LA who just read the complete book. So he basically said that he is a huge Harry Belafonte fan, but he wondered, this is a kind of a touchy question, why Harry was so soft on Israel,
Oh,
and
well.
I was telling him that Harry, the whole left Soviet, you know, including the Soviet Union, Paul Robeson, when I guess when Israel became Israel, the whole world, including the left, supported Israel. And then
Actually,
I think,
Moscow recognized Israel before Washington did.
right. Wow. But in 68, whenever the other Israeli war took 67, there was a big break. Could you talk about that?
Oh. Yeah, well, as you know, the Zionist movement, as we know it in modern terms, basically took off in the late 19th century. And it was driven in no small part by this idea that anti-Semitism could not be eradicated. And therefore, there needed to be a homeland for the Jewish people so that they could escape persecution. And of course, there was discussion of this homeland being in East Africa. I talk about that in my Kenya book. And other parts of the world before historical Palestine was settled.
Was Guyana too?
I don't know about Guyana. Maybe, I'm not sure. Let me step back for a second. I was just talking about Negro Comrades of the Crown and the U.S. Negroes defecting to the British side and the U.S. side. Part of the problem the British had was that London, the English, did not necessarily feel that the Irish and Scots were reliable politically. For example, note that some of the leaders of the Spanish Empire were actually of Irish descent. The colonial governor of Louisiana in 1766, Alejandro O'Reilly. The leader of Cuba in the mid-19th century, Leopoldo O'Donnell. The national hero of Chile, go to Santiago, you know, everything is named after him, Bernardo O'Higgins. And so there was, first of all, there's sort of like this musical chairs of you persecute a people and then they defect to the other side. I mean, for example, when the Spanish are ousted from Jamaica in 1655 by the British, you had a substantial Jewish population of Spanish descent in Jamaica, fleeing the Inquisition, you know, the terrible persecution of the Jewish population by the Spaniards. Of course, they defect to the British side, and of course their descendants still play a leading role in Jamaican society to this very day. Anyway, so there was this idea that there needed to be this Jewish homeland, and of course it takes off after World War I, and then gathers steam in the 1930s and 1940s. Of course, you probably know about these controversies about some of the ultra-Zionist leaders actually collaborating with Berlin in the 1930s, for example. But in any case, the State of Israel is founded in 1947-48. It's supported by the international progressive community. As noted, the left in particular is supporting the formation of the State of Israel. In the cold light of history, in retrospect, one might want to interrogate that decision, quite frankly. Because it comes in the wake of this rather casual attitude towards settler states. Now, with all due respect to Canada, you know, it's a settler state. And settler states, I mean, that's one of the many reasons why Canada and the United States were on the same side with regard to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, UNDRIP. Just promulgated quite recently. It's a major step forward for indigenous people, UNDRIP. And of course, Canada and the United States fought it every step of the way because of this, these settler states tend to stick together. And that, of course, helps to shed light on the fact of why your own Stephen Harper, in some ways, has been to the right of Washington on the question of Israel. Which is quite shocking and startling. To get to the right of the United States takes some doing. I mean, you really have to work.
He makes Obama look like Ernesto.
Che Guevara.
Directorial touch, right?
Yeah. Yeah.